Dr. Marcus Reed rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen. The clock on the wall showed 3:15 a.m., but he couldn't stop looking at the image that had appeared during tonight's data processing from the James Webb IU telescope. Something was different about this one. "This can't be right," he muttered, reaching for his fourth cup of coffee. The liquid had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed as he took a sip. The image on his screen showed what appeared to be a massive structure orbiting a distant star. Unlike the usual blurry dots and specks that deep space telescopes captured, this image was impossibly clear. The structure had distinct geometric patterns that couldn't have been natural, perfect hexagons repeated in a vast array that stretched for what must have been millions of miles. His hand shook slightly as he picked up his phone. It was the middle of the night, but this couldn't wait. "Tom, it's Marcus. You need to come to the lab right now," he said when his colleague answered with a sleepy grunt. "Do you know what time it is?" Tom Parker's voice was groggy with sleep. "Trust me, you'll want to see this." An hour later, Tom stood behind Marcus's chair, his mouth hanging open as they looked at the enhanced image together. "Have you checked for equipment malfunction?" "3 times, Marcus replied, pulling up diagnostic reports on another screen. "The telescope is working perfectly. Whatever we're looking at, it's real." By noon that day, the Deep Space Observation Center was buzzing with activity. News had spread quickly through the scientific community, and researchers from other departments had abandoned their own work to crowd into Marcus's lab. The image was now displayed on the main wall screen, and dozens of eyes studied every detail. "The precision of these structures," said Dr. Lisa Moore, an engineering specialist who had been called in to analyze the image. "They're perfectly aligned. The engineering required to build something like this would be astronomical." She smiled slightly at her own pun, but nobody laughed. They were all too focused on the implications of what they were seeing. Marcus stood before his colleagues, trying to keep his voice steady. "As you can see, this isn't a natural formation. The regular patterns and the scale of construction suggest artificial origin. We're looking at what appears to be a megastructure built by an advanced civilization." The room erupted in discussion. Some scientists argued about the possibilities. Others started calculating the energy requirements for such construction, and a few simply stood in stunned silence. "We need to verify this independently," Tom said, always the practical one. "We need other telescopes to confirm what we're seeing." Marcus nodded. "I've already sent the coordinates to observatories in Chile and Hawaii. They'll be able to point their telescopes at this location when it's dark there." Over the next 12 hours, confirmation came in from 3 different observatories. Each one captured the same impossible image: a vast artificial structure in space, its geometric patterns clearly visible against the backdrop of stars. The media caught wind of the discovery by evening. Reporters began gathering outside the research center, and Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from journalists and government officials. As he looked out his office window at the growing crowd below, Marcus felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. Humanity had just proven, beyond any doubt, that we weren't alone in the universe. But as he turned back to study the image again, something caught his eye. A pattern in the structure that seemed to shift and change the longer he looked at it. "Tom," he called out to his colleague who was fielding phone calls in the corner. "Come look at this. I think there might be more to this image than we first thought." The structure wasn't just a static object. It was trying to tell them something. And this was only the beginning of humanity's greatest discovery. Tom walked over, and together they leaned in close to the screen, not yet knowing that what they were about to find would change the course of human history forever. 3 days had passed since the discovery of the alien megastructure, and Dr. Marcus Reed hadn't left the lab for more than a few hours of sleep. The image that had shocked the world was now spread across 6 different screens, each showing different wavelengths of light and data analysis. "Look at this pattern again," Marcus said to Tom, pointing at a strange flickering in the ultraviolet spectrum. "It's too regular to be random." Tom leaned closer to the screen, his coffee forgotten in his hand. You think it's some kind of code? I think it's exactly that. Marcus pulled up another window showing a series of repeating patterns in the light waves. These fluctuations, they're like Morse code, but using light instead of sound. The door burst open, and Dr. Lisa Moore rushed in, her tablet computer clutched tightly in her hands. You need to see this, she said, breathless from running. We just finished analyzing the infrared data. There's definitely a message hidden in the light spectrum. The three scientists huddled around Lisa's tablet, looking at the new data. The screen showed a complex series of pulses and patterns that definitely couldn't have been natural. We need a cryptographer, Tom said, running his hands through his messy hair. And probably a linguist too. Marcus nodded. I already called in some favors. Dr. James Wilson from the NSA's Cryptography Division is flying in. He should be here in an hour. By evening, the lab had transformed into something that looked like a war room. Dr. Wilson sat at a central computer, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he input different decoding algorithms. Around him, a team of linguists and mathematicians worked on translating the patterns they were finding. It's brilliant, really, Dr. Wilson said, not taking his eyes off his screen. They knew any civilization advanced enough to build a telescope that could see their structure would also be able to analyze these light patterns. It's like they built an interstellar mailbox. Got something? Called out one of the linguists, Dr. Amy White. The basic pattern seems to be mathematical. They're using universal constants as a foundation for communication. The team worked through the night, fueled by excitement and endless cups of coffee. Piece by piece, they began to understand the message hidden in the light. This can't be right, Marcus said, reading through the first partial translation. Are you sure about this? Dr. White nodded grimly. We've checked it 3 times. It's definitely a warning. Tom read the translation out loud. To those who see this message, danger approaches. Your world stands at the edge of darkness. Coordinates follow. The room fell silent. What had started as an exciting scientific discovery had suddenly become something much more serious. There's more coming through, Dr. Wilson called out. A lot more. And these look like specifications for some kind of technology. Marcus stared at the original image of the megastructure, his mind racing. They're not just warning us, he said slowly. They're trying to help us prepare for something. The coordinates mentioned in the message pointed to a location at the edge of the solar system. When they checked that area with their telescopes, they found nothing unusual, yet. Whatever this warning is about, Lisa said, looking at the growing pile of translated data, we need to take it seriously. An alien civilization doesn't build something this massive just to send a prank message. Marcus nodded, picking up his phone. I'm calling the director. This goes way beyond our department now. We need to get world governments involved. As he dialed the number, he looked again at the mysterious structure in the image. They had thought finding proof of alien life would be the biggest discovery in human history. Now it seemed that discovery was just the beginning of something much bigger, and possibly much more dangerous. The warning was clear, but the question remained, what kind of darkness was approaching Earth, and would humanity be ready to face it when it arrived? The conference room at the Deep Space Observation Center was packed with military officials, scientists, and government representatives from around the world. Dr. Marcus Reed stood at the front, his presentation showing the now famous image of the alien megastructure. What we've learned in the past week changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, Marcus said, his voice steadied despite his nervousness. The beings who built this structure call themselves the Guardians. They've been watching over our galaxy for millions of years. He clicked to the next slide, showing a diagram of the Milky Way. A large, dark area was marked on one edge. According to their message, there's a force they call the Void. It's not like anything we've ever encountered. It doesn't just destroy planets or stars. It erases reality itself. The room erupted in murmurs and whispers. A general raised his hand. And we're supposed to just believe this warning from aliens we've never met. Tom stepped forward, holding up a tablet. We've verified their claims with our own instruments. The gravitational readings from the edge of our solar system are unusual. They match exactly what the Guardians described. Dr. Lisa Moore took over, pointing to a new image on the screen. It showed Earth's position in space, with various energy fields marked around it. Here's the most interesting part, she said. Earth isn't just another planet to them. We're special. Our planet's position, combined with our unique magnetic field and radiation signature, has been acting like a cork in a bottle. We've been blocking the void's expansion without even knowing it. Marcus clicked to another slide, this one showing a timeline. The Guardians have been waiting for us to reach a certain level of technology. They needed us to be advanced enough to understand their message, but they couldn't contact us directly without risking detection by the void. Detection? Someone asked from the back of the room. The void is attracted to advanced civilizations, Marcus explained. That's why the Guardians have stayed hidden for so long. They'd been protecting younger species, waiting for allies strong enough to help them fight back. Dr. Amy White, the linguist, stood up from her seat. The message contains their history. They've lost thousands of worlds to the void. Each time, they tried to fight it directly, and each time they failed. But Earth is different. We've been naturally holding it back for centuries. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. The general spoke again, his voice softer now. So what do they want from us? Marcus took a deep breath. They want to help us strengthen what we've been doing naturally. They've included designs for technology that can enhance Earth's natural defensive properties. But we don't have much time. He showed the final slide, a series of calculations and dates. Based on their data and our own readings, the void will reach the edge of our solar system in less than 2 months. Tom stepped forward again. But here's the thing. The Guardians didn't just give us their original plans. They want us to improve them. They've seen how humans solve problems differently. Our creativity, our way of thinking. It's unlike anything they've encountered before. Lisa nodded enthusiastically. We've already found 3 ways to improve their basic designs. It's like they gave us a bicycle, and we're figuring out how to build a motorcycle. Marcus looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the world leaders present. The Guardians have been fighting a defensive war for millions of years. Maybe what they need isn't just another soldier in their army. Maybe they need someone who can think differently. Maybe they need humanity. The room burst into discussion, but Marcus could see in their faces that they understood. Humanity had been chosen not because we were the strongest or the most advanced, but because we were different. We had been protecting the galaxy by simply existing, and now we had the chance to do it consciously. The question was, could we rise to the challenge in time? The first sign that something was wrong came from a small satellite monitoring station in Alaska. Deep space probes started sending back strange readings, warped signals that made no sense. Dr. Marcus Reed stared at the incoming data, his face lit by the glow of multiple screens. "It's happening faster than we thought," he said, pointing to a graph that showed rapidly changing gravitational measurements. "The void is already affecting our outer solar system." Tom rushed into the control room, holding a tablet showing live feeds from various space telescopes. "Look at this," he said, his voice tense. "The stars at the edge of our solar system, they're just disappearing." The main screen showed a time-lapse of the last 6 hours. One by one, distant stars were winking out of existence, leaving behind an unnatural darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. "How long do we have?" asked General Williams, who had become a permanent fixture at the research center. Lisa looked up from her calculations. "At this rate, maybe 3 weeks, not 2 months like we originally thought. The void is moving faster than even the Guardians predicted." Marcus walked to the central holographic display, which showed Earth's current defensive systems. A network of satellites circled the planet, each one modified according to the Guardian specifications. But would it be enough? The good news, Tom said, trying to sound optimistic, is that our improvements to their technology are working better than expected. The test runs show our modified satellites can amplify Earth's natural protective field by almost 300%. But will it be enough? General Williams asked the question everyone was thinking. Before anyone could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed as new data poured in from their deep space monitors. "We've got massive gravitational distortions forming near Neptune's orbit," Lisa announced, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "The void is. It's like it's trying different approaches, testing our defenses." On the main screen, they watched as space itself seemed to bend and twist. The few probes they had in the outer solar system were sending back impossible readings before going dark one by one. "Look at this pattern," Marcus said suddenly, pointing to a particular data stream. "It's not random. The void. It's intelligent. It's learning, adapting to each barrier it encounters." Tom pulled up another screen showing Earth's magnetic field. "Our planet's natural defenses are already responding. It's like Earth itself knows it's under attack." "That's exactly what's happening," Lisa said excitedly. "The Guardians were right. Earth isn't just blocking the void by accident. There's something about our planet's composition that actively repels it." General Williams leaned over the display. "Then why do we need all this extra technology?" Marcus pointed to the disappearing stars. "Because the void is stronger than ever. Earth's natural defenses were enough when the threat was distant, but now—" He let the sentence hang in the air. A junior scientist burst into the room. "Dr. Reed, we're getting a new transmission from the Guardian structure." Everyone gathered around as the message was decoded. The text appeared on screen. "The void grows stronger with each world it consumes. Your natural defenses alone will not be enough. You must complete the modifications before it arrives." "How much of the satellite network is ready?" General Williams asked. Tom checked the status reports. 60%. "We need at least 2 more weeks to finish the rest." "We don't have 2 weeks," Lisa said quietly, pointing to new data coming in. "Look at these readings. At its current speed, the void will reach Earth's orbit in 10 days. Marcus looked around the room at the tired faces of his team. They had worked impossible hours, made breakthrough after breakthrough, but time was running out. "Then we'll have to find a way to do it faster," he said firmly. "We're humanity's last line of defense, and we're the galaxy's last hope. We need more satellites, and we need them now." Dr. Marcus Reed's voice echoed through the massive assembly facility. What had once been a car manufacturing plant was now filled with rows of partially completed defensive satellites. Workers moved with urgent purpose across the factory floor, where manufacturing robots had been reprogrammed to build the complex devices. The scene was the same in factories across the globe. Humanity working together against the clock. Tom walked up to Marcus, holding the latest progress report. "Good news. China just converted 3 more factories to satellite production. India's space agency has figured out how to launch twice as many satellites per rocket." "What about the power problem?" Marcus asked, watching as another satellite's core was carefully installed. Lisa joined them, her lab coat covered in grease from working on the power systems. "We solved it," she said, grinning despite her exhaustion. "Instead of using the Guardian's original power design, we modified Earth's solar panel technology. It's not as powerful, but we can make it 10 times faster." The main screen on the wall showed a countdown. 7 days until void arrival. General Williams entered the facility, immediately heading for their group. The president just finished talking with other world leaders. Every country is now sharing all their space technology, even the secret stuff. "About time," Tom muttered, but he was smiling. Nothing like the end of the world to bring people together. Marcus walked over to a completed satellite, running his hand along its smooth surface. The design was a perfect blend of Guardian technology and human innovation. Where the Guardians had created complex but perfect machines, humans had found ways to make them simpler but more effective. "Look at this," Lisa said, pulling up a diagram on her tablet. "The Guardians designed these to work independently, but we figured out how to link them together. Each satellite makes the ones around it stronger." A young engineer ran up to their group. "Dr. Reed, we just got confirmation. The first network test was successful. The magnetic field amplification is working better than the simulations predicted." On the main screen, a visualization showed Earth's natural magnetic field growing stronger as the new satellites added their power to it. The protective bubble around Earth was expanding, getting ready to face the void. "How many satellites do we have in orbit now?" General Williams asked. Tom checked the latest figures. 312. "We need at least 500 for minimum coverage, but the Guardians recommended 700 for optimal protection. At current production rates," Lisa added, "we can have 600 ready by the time the void arrives." Marcus studied the orbital patterns on another screen. The satellites were arranging themselves in a complex web around Earth, each one precisely positioned to strengthen the planet's natural defenses. "Look at this energy reading," he said suddenly, pointing to a spike in the data. "The satellites aren't just working together, they're learning from each other. The network is becoming stronger than the sum of its parts." "That wasn't in the Guardians' designs," Tom said, leaning in to look closer. "No, it wasn't." Marcus smiled. "That's pure human innovation. We didn't just copy their technology, we improved it." A technician called out from across the room. "Dr. Reed, the Guardian structure is sending another message." The message appeared on the main screen. "Your modifications exceed our expectations. The network grows stronger than we thought. There may be hope." General Williams read the message twice. "Well, I'll be damned. We're actually impressing beings that have been protecting the galaxy for millions of years." "We're not safe yet," Marcus reminded everyone. "But for the first time, I think we might actually have a chance." The countdown continued its relentless march. 6 days, 23 hours, until void arrival. Humanity had united in a way never seen before. Now they just had to hope it would be enough to face what was coming. The control room was silent except for the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. Dr. Marcus Reed stood with his team, watching as the impossible darkness crept closer to Earth's orbit. The void had finally arrived. "Jupiter's gone," Tom announced quietly, his voice heavy. "It just disappeared into the darkness. All our probes in that region stopped transmitting." On the main screen, they could see the void's approach. It wasn't like any natural phenomenon they had ever seen. Where it passed, space itself seemed to warp and vanish, leaving behind an emptiness that hurt the eyes to look at. "All satellites reporting ready," Lisa called out from her station. "The network is operating at 98% efficiency, better than we hoped for." General Williams paced behind them. "How long until it reaches our defensive perimeter?" 30 minutes, Marcus answered, checking the calculations again. "Maybe less. It's moving erratically now, like it senses our defenses." The satellite network they had built was humanity's last hope. 650 satellites orbited Earth in a complex pattern, each one amplifying the planet's natural protective field. They had managed to exceed their production goals in the final days, working around the clock. "Energy readings are off the scale," Tom reported, pointing to new data streaming in. "The void is putting out more power than we've ever recorded. It's like it's gathering strength for the attack." Marcus watched as their outer sensors began to fail one by one. The void was probing their defenses, testing for weaknesses. But humanity had planned for this. "Activate the adaptive shield protocols," he ordered. Lisa typed rapidly at her console, and the satellite network began to shift and adjust, responding to the void's movements. Suddenly, all the screens flickered. A wave of distortion swept through Earth's orbit, as the Void made its first direct attack. Shield holding. Lisa shouted over the noise of alarms. The network is responding exactly like we planned. Each attack is making it stronger. They watched in awe as the satellites worked together, creating a shimmering barrier of energy around Earth. Where the Void touched it, the shield bent but didn't break. Instead, it seemed to learn from each attack, adjusting its frequency and strength. "Look at this," Tom said excitedly, pointing to new readings. The Guardians were right about Earth's natural defenses. Our planet's magnetic field is actually feeding power into the satellite network. It's making the whole system stronger. The Void launched another attack, more powerful than the first. The control room shook, and several screens cracked. But when the readings stabilized, everyone stared in disbelief. "We're not just holding it back," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder. "We're pushing it away." The data confirmed what they were seeing. Each time the Void attacked, Earth's combined natural and artificial defenses grew stronger. The satellite network was acting like a massive amplifier, taking Earth's protective field and turning it into a weapon against the darkness. "Message from the Guardian structure," a technician called out. The words appeared on screen. "Continue. Your defense is doorkage into ways. We NEV are imagined. He POSS IBL. The void is an EV or NCONT or ET. RESIS ANCE like this." General Williams leaned forward, watching as the Void's attacks became more desperate. "It's afraid," he said softly. "For the first time in its existence, it's actually afraid." Marcus nodded. "It should be. It's never faced anything like humanity before. We didn't just build better satellites. We found a way to turn our planet's natural protection into an active defense." Another attack came, the strongest yet. But this time, something new happened. As the Void struck their shield, bursts of light began to appear in the darkness. The emptiness was being filled with something else. Hope. "Send a message to all stations," Marcus ordered. "Tell them to divert maximum power to the network. It's time to show this thing why you don't mess with Earth." The final battle for humanity's survival had begun, and for the first time, the galaxy's ancient enemy was the one retreating. Light bloomed in the darkness of space. Where the Void had been consuming reality itself, now Earth's defensive shield pushed outward, a brilliant blue-green barrier that pulsed with power. In the control room, Dr. Marcus Reeve and his team watched in amazement as their creation exceeded all expectations. "Look at these readings," Lisa shouted, her face lit by the glow of her screens. "The shield isn't just pushing the Void back. It's healing the space behind it." The main display showed something unprecedented. Where the Void retreated, stars were becoming visible again. The emptiness was being filled with normal space, restored by the unique combination of Earth's natural field and human technology. "The Guardian structure is powering up," Tom called from his station. "They're synchronizing with our network." Streams of energy burst from the distant megastructure, connecting with Earth's defensive field. The Guardians were adding their power to humanity's shield, creating something entirely new. Multiple contacts appearing, General Williams announced, pointing to new signals appearing on their long-range sensors. "We're picking up ships, hundreds of them." Marcus stared at the readings in disbelief. All around the galaxy, other civilizations were emerging from hiding. Ships of different sizes and designs appeared, each adding their own energy to the combined shield. "They've been waiting," Marcus realized. "Waiting to see if we could actually do it." A message flashed across their screens, not just from the Guardians this time, but from dozens of different alien civilizations. "We stand with Earth. Together, we ain't indeed this threat." The Void launched one final, desperate attack. The control room shook violently, but the shield held firm. More than firm, it pushed back with even greater force. "It's working." Lissa yelled over the noise of the alarms. The combined power is too much for it. The void is actually shrinking. They watched as the impossible happened. The darkness that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years began to collapse in on itself. Where it had once devoured everything in its path, now it was being consumed by the very reality it had tried to destroy. "Message from the Guardians," Tom announced, his voice filled with emotion. The words appeared on screen. "In all our millions of eras of WATG, we never imagine DTHLS outsuami. Humanity did not just survive. UFO and a way to QURE the UNCURABO. Your world's natural defenses combine with your human EQE way of thinking. Have the HCC did what we thought impossible." The room erupted in cheers as the last traces of the void vanished. On the main screen, they could see the ships of other civilizations approaching Earth, not as invaders, but as allies coming to meet the species that had changed everything. "Dr. Reed," General Williams said, standing tall, "I believe we're about to have some very interesting diplomatic meetings." Marcus smiled, looking at his team, at Tom, who had stood by him from the first discovery, at Lisa, whose brilliant innovations had made everything possible, and at all the others who had worked tirelessly to save not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. "You know what the best part is," he said, looking at the image of Earth on the main screen, now surrounded by its protective field of blue-green light. "We did this by being ourselves. The Guardians didn't choose us because we were the strongest or the most advanced. They chose us because we were different. And now the galaxy will never be the same," Tom added, grinning. A final message appeared from the Guardians. "We will submit to the galactic community, humanity. UAAVEARN your place, not just as ally is, beauty as TACERs. Your creativity, your determination, your human EQE perspective. These are ETEGIFTs. The GLXOYHAS BEEN waiting for." As the sun rose over Earth, its light seemed brighter somehow. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the rules of what was possible. And this was just the beginning. The telescope image that had started it all still hung on the wall of Marcus's office. But now it wasn't just a picture of an alien structure. It was a reminder of the day humanity discovered they were capable of more than anyone, even themselves, had imagined.